Hey, welcome everyone to our live stream. It's Ned from Caspio. Number one item that we always want to get out of the way is to make sure you can hear me okay. And if you can, let me know in the chat window and we can go ahead and begin today's live stream. Hey, King Capo. Hey, Ali. Welcome back. Yes, sir. Okay, good. Nice to see you again, loud and clear. Hey, Phil. All right, so let's begin today's live stream. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a good week so far. I know it's Monday. We have a long week ahead of us. Hopefully, you're still enjoying the live stream content. Every week, we come up with new material for the content, and then we try to build it in 1 hour or less. And today is no different. Today, we're going to build a mobile responsive inspection app. So, for example, in my use case today, I have customers that can log in and create a service request. And then we have technicians who can take on these requests and go in and fix the issue if there is an issue to fix. This is a very simple app. I wanted to make it more interactive for you today. So I try to create a simple URL, which I'm going to copy, paste in the chat window. And if you guys want to type that into your mobile device, please do me a favor and do so. You're going to see a login screen initially, and then you're going to see demo credentials underneath the login screen, which you can type in, log in, and you should be able to see the submission form. And if somebody can just do me a quick favor and just submit the form and let me know when you're done, that way we can see how we can submit that request using a mobile device. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, you can quickly submit that, and then we're going to be able to track all the submissions in a report in just a moment here. So consider yourself to be a customer. You're going to log in as, I think I have the email KP or JD. I think it's KP. So just log in as KP at customer.com with the password test. If you're unable to do so, let me know in the chat window. I don't want to waste time thinking that you guys are doing that. If you're not, if you don't have the ability to do so, that's okay. I'm going to make one submission here. So I'm just going to say sample text. Please come in and fix the issue, and I'll hit submit. And I'm submitting my form using a desktop, but if you have a mobile device, I have my phone here as well. I can pull it up. Requires cookies to be enabled. Yeah, I mean, it should be fine if you just bypass that. You should be able to see the... Is anyone else seeing the login screen? Logged in via Android? Okay, thanks, Dexter. I'm going to flip over to my report just to see if we have any submissions that came in. So I'm just going to take a look at my request. So now as the customer, as KP, I can go to my tabular report and I can see all the submissions, including the one that I submitted. And I only see 4. These are all of my sample submissions that I've had. But you should be able to see how that form is responsive for the mobile device. Everything, all the objects and all the elements will conform to fit the viewport of that window. So it looks nice. It looks like a mobile app, even though it's not. It's just a responsive form that changes based on the width of the browser. For those of you wondering if we can do native apps in Caspio, unfortunately, we don't have the capability to do native apps, but you can build responsive applications with workflows. And that's what we're looking at today. All right, I'll refresh my tabular report to see if anybody else had a chance to submit something. And I do have a few more submissions coming in. Hey, David, fix AC. That's the one I had as well. AC unit stopped working. Okay, and this tabular report is also responsive. So if I change the width of the browser, you will see how everything goes from a tabular viewport to a list. Okay, so you can see everything now in list format. If I expand my browser, you will see once again back into tabular. And the final data page that I have for today is for a technician to be able to log in. And I'm already logged in as the technician, as John Doe. And if I want to take on this request, let's say from David, I can open it, I can assign this to myself, and I can say maybe pending, or if I've completed that request, we have some conditional formatting here as well where I can input my notes date completed, and I can update and let the customer know your request has been completed. And they can log in and they can review that resolution. So we're going to create this application today. It's a very simple app. We only have 3 data pages. So let's get into it. Inside my Caspio account, I already have my tables created ahead of time. So we have our customer table with all of your typical fields that you would see. We have the customer ID, name, email, and password. The fonts are so tiny on my Android. Oh, okay. I think that we can just change the label size either in the style, or I don't know if you can zoom in. Just for the sake of submitting the form today, if you just zoom in on your phone, you might be able to see the labels. But yeah, we do have the styling capability to change the label size for the mobile device as well. Okay, so that's something I should have done. My apologies. All right, so we have email, we have password. You can include other fields for your customers if you'd like. I'm going to go back to my tables. We have our technician table, which has more or less the same fields. But if you're tracking other fields, maybe, I don't know, title, phone number, you can add those fields to your table. This table here will be more or less my main table where I submit all of the service requests and provide resolutions. So if I click on design, you will see we have service request ID. That's the unique ID. We have the customer ID because we need to link these requests back to our customers. And then we have technician ID because we want to know which service request was assigned to what technician. Then we have title, we have description, image if the customer wants to submit the image of that service request. We have status, we have notes, date submitted, and date completed. All right. Then we have 2 authentications created. So under technician, if I click edit, I am using my technician table. That's where all the credentials are. And I'm using my email and password as my credentials to log in as the technician. And same thing applies to our customer. So now how do we go about building all of these data pages? So let's create our first one. And I always like to start off with the submission form so that I can have some sample data in my table. Usually if I'm building a SaaS type application, I'll start off with the registration form because I want my customers to sign up. And then they can log in and maybe update their profile or take a look at some data using one of our reports. So I'm going to start off with the submission form, hit next. I'll select my service request table, and I'm just going to call this open a service request. For my style, I'm going to use the blue style and localization English and restrict access to my customer. So I need the customer to log in and be able to view that form. And very important, it's already checked by default, but if you look down here, you'll see enable responsive. So if you want that form to be compatible with both the desktop version and a mobile device, maybe an iPhone or a tablet, make sure you have that checkbox selected, and then it's automatically going to conform to the width of the browser. We'll hit next. For now, we're going to include all the fields. We don't need all the fields in the form, but I'll remove them one at a time. I'm just going to move them all at once. Hit next. And then for customer ID, make sure you make the field hidden. And using the authentication method, we can stamp the customer ID into the request table. Technician ID does not need to be on the submission form, so we're going to just remove that field. Title can be a required field. Description can be a required field. Maybe make that a text area. Let me see if a question is coming in. We did the submissions from both the desktop and Android mobile. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. In fact, if you attended I think it was the last live stream that I did covering auto values, or was it the one before? I can't remember. So if I had auto values enabled, and I can then track the, what's it called? The system that was used to submit the form, including the browser too, so that we can track the device that was used. And I will be able to see the submissions that came in either from a iPhone or Android, or maybe even a desktop if you use Chrome or Firefox or IE. So that would be a useful one for us as an admin level user to track, what devices are people using to submit these service request. Image, so we'll say file, maybe we can call this add attachment. Now for status, because this is going to be a brand new submission from the customer, I always like to make the field hidden and by default just say the status will be new. Okay, so when you submit that form initially, the service request will be flagged as new. Notes, we don't need to have this in the submission form. Date submitted is going to be a timestamp, and date updated or date completed will be something that our technician is going to fill out. Okay. And from here, you can customize the form however you want. You can add an HTML block. If you'd like to have a heading above your form, you can say open a service request. Using the toolbar, you can make that text bold. You can make it a little bit bigger if you'd like. It's up to you. Okay. And then for title, maybe you want to make all the fields uniform, have equal width. So you could maybe say something like pixels 400. And for my text area, I also want that to be measured in pixels and have the width be 400. And then on the following screen, you can change your confirmation message if you'd like. I'm just going to hit preview to see what I have. And I will log in as KP, who happens to be my sample user. And there's my form. All right. So we could move the label inside the field as well as a placeholder. I'm not going to do that, but because I have that checkbox for responsive enabled, if I change the width of my browser, you will see how the form is going to change as soon as we reach a certain width on our window. Okay? And you will see labels on the left here in just a second, depending on the device that you're using. So if you're happy with the form, you can save your changes. And then you can deploy that form and you can publish that form either using a direct, the embed method. If you have a website, you can embed that form into your web page, or you can use a direct link method and share that with your customer. All right, so now that I can open up a service request, I also want to be able to see all the requests. So we're going to create a new data page, report, tabular format, hit next, based off of the same table. And we're going to call this View My Requests. Same style, I'm going to use blue, same localization, and restrict access to our customer. Hit next. So you just need to ask yourself, does my customer really have a need to search all the requests? Yes, if they're submitting up to maybe 100, 1,000, 10,000 service requests, in that case, it makes sense to have a search form. But if you're anticipating maybe having like 5 or 10 or 15, there's really no need to search. You can just glance over the list and find the one that you just submitted. So initially, I personally always like to have a predefined report until I know that I'm going to have a lot of submissions. For record level security, I need my customers to see just their own requests. So we're going to enable that and filter the data based on their own unique customer ID. Right? So if I log in as KP, I'll be able to see my own requests. If I log in as David, I'll see my own requests, and we control that using RLS. So now for my filtering fields, I'm not going to include anything in the filtering fields. We're going to hit next, and then for my results page fields, we're going to include, let's say, title, maybe the status, and date submitted. The rest of the information we can include in the details page. So we're going to hit next. I'm not going to give my customers ability to edit on the results page. We're going to keep everything as read only. I'm not going to make any changes to my results page fields. Let's show 25 requests per page, and let's also sort maybe based on the most recent submission first. We're going to hit next. And then for my details link, I'm going to use the title field to be a clickable link so they can click on that title and go into the details. And then for my details page, for now, let's include all the fields. Hit next. And let's see, we don't need the service request ID. You can include that if you want to for your customer. I'm not going to do that. Customer ID, no need to display that. Technician ID, we're going to display. I would like to see what technician is handling my request. So I'm just going to actually move this down a little bit. The first field we're going to have is title, description, image, status of the request. I want the technician ID, the notes of the technician. We're going to call this just technician. Notes, date submitted can be at the very top, and date completed is going to be the very last field so that I know when the technician completed my request. I think I'm okay with that. Let me see my image field. Let's have this be a file and then just have a hyperlink to download. I think that's good enough, unless you want them to see the image too. So if you want them to see the image that was submitted, they'll be able to see that. And you can change the width maybe to 500. I think I'm okay with that. Let's hit finish. Let's preview. And here we have all the submissions. Okay. And now I can change the width of that. And we'll see what that looks like here in just a moment when we go to list view. From on my mobile device, I'll be able to see the data in a list view. If I go to my desktop, tabular. And then in the details page, I can see all the notes. I can go down, change the width, or I can go full screen. Currently, there's no image attached. This is my earlier submission as a customer. It's a new status. We don't know who the technician is yet. No notes, no date completed. Let's just go back. All right. And the final data page we're going to create today is for technicians to take on these requests. Once again, we're going to select tabular format based off of the same table. And we're going to call this view service requests. Same style, blue, same localization, restrict access to our technicians this time. We're going to hit next. And if you want your technicians to have the ability to search, you can enable a search form. I'm not going to do that. Again, I'm going to filter the data. I'm not going to enable record level security. I want my technicians to be able to see all the incoming requests and be able to pick and choose which requests they want to take on. Now, you can also expand upon this if you'd like. You can have a manager level user assign these requests to the technician. I think this was brought up in the past, but you could also find out what technicians is in the vicinity of that request. If the customer is located, I don't know, in Sacramento, California, and if you have a nearby technician, you can assign that technician to that request because he or she is closest to it. So you could do things like that as well. But for me, in my application, since I'm making something very simple, I just want the technicians to be able to self-assign all the requests that are coming in. All right, so we're not going to filter. Let's hit next. Actually, I didn't create this for my live example, the one that I showed you at the beginning of the live stream, but it would be useful to filter based on the status field because I only want to display the ones that are new. If it's pending, if it's been assigned to a technician, there's really no reason for me to see that anymore because somebody else is handling that request. So we're going to filter based on the status field, and I want to only show the ones that are flagged as new. Okay. If you want to only display the ones that are new or pending, you could add another criteria and simply just say either new or equal to pending. Now it's going to, well, if you include the logical operator here to say and, now if it's new and pending, it's going to be displayed in that report. Or you can do one or the other, or. So we'll remove the pending and we'll just stick with new. Okay, so in my results page, I want to be able to see dates submitted. I want the customer's name. I want the title. And I think I'm okay with that. Status, image, date completed, tech ID. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. The rest of the information we can have in the details view. So we have customer ID. We're just going to say customer instead of ID. That's going to be the name. Let's see the most recent first. Hit next. And again, I'll just use my title field as the link to my details. And in the details page, so now we need to have more information and we need to enable that conditional formatting. So if I flag the status as completed, I want to display my fields notes and date completed. Okay, but for now, let's see what information we need to have in the details page. Let's have date submitted. Let's have the customer name. Let's have the title, description, image, who's handling that request, and then we have status, notes, and date completed in that order. So we have the customer, which is remove the ID from the label, title, description, image, so that's going to be a file. And then for tech ID, we can reassign this to a different technician. So I'm just going to create this to be a dropdown. And we'll say here under technicians, and we'll do both select technician. I don't need to capitalize that. Okay, delete the value. And lookup table is going to be the technicians table. Display the name and stamp the ID when you select the name. So as the technician, when I'm going into the details of that service request, I see a dropdown and I can assign that to myself if I need to, or I can assign it to somebody else if I've already talked to the other technician who's closer and wants to handle that request. Then we have status. We're going to change this into a dropdown as well. We're going to do lookup table. We have a lookup table that contains all the statuses. And we're going to just display the status in the dropdown where I can change it from new to pending or completed. We have notes. That's going to be a text area. And we have date completed. That's also going to be a, well, yeah, let's have that be a text field. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to insert a new section. I want to be able to control these two fields using a rule. So if I go to the rule here, and if I say, my first rule is going to say, if the status does not equal completed, I want to hide the second section. So watch what happens if I hit preview. Let's log in as JD at tech.com. And we go into the details. So here, if the status does not equal completed, we're hiding that section. If it equals to pending, we're still hiding that section. But if it equals to completed, now we can display those two fields and we can input our notes to let the customer know what was done. Okay. In addition to that, I want to be able to set up another rule that if the status does equal to completed, I want to require both the notes field and I also want to require the date completed field. And that's all I really needed to do here. I can hit finish now to save. And I can preview. I already had it pulled up. That's okay. So if I go back to that request, and if I say I want to assign this to myself, I completed it. Applied more to the wall. Your neighbors should be happy now. Date completed was today. We're going to hit update. And you could also go as far as sending an email back to the customer. I don't usually enable that because it's a pretty straightforward implementation to just send the emails back and forth if you needed to do something like that. So now if I get an email as the customer letting me know, hey, your request was completed, go ahead and log in. So if I come back here and if I say preview as the customer, and if I come back here, I can now say and see that it was completed by John Doe. These are the notes, and date completed was today's date. Okay, I'm just giving you ideas on how you can use the Caspio platform for different use cases. You know, last week, what did we cover last week? We talked about, I think, performance evaluation. And then today we're looking at a simple service request technician type app on a mobile device. So as long as you enable that checkbox for responsive, all of your data pages will conform to fit the window of the screen, whether you're using a tablet, mobile device, or desktop. And what I've done in the past, if you're using, let's say, an iPhone, and if you end up going to that link, the one that I shared before, this one here, iPhone has the capability to bookmark that URL address as one of the icons on the mobile device, on your iPhone. So if you click on the icon, it's actually going to open up the browser, Safari, and go directly to that link. So it kind of feels like the app, but it's not really an app. It's just browser-based, but it's responsive, and all of our data pages can be made responsive to fit the window of the screen. Okay. So I don't know if you learned something new today. I hope that you did. Next Monday, this request came in. I think it came in let's say about 2 weeks ago, to do a payment integration. So next week, we're going to look at a few examples of how we can connect. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to use PayPal or Stripe, but we're going to use one or the other to have like an invoice where somebody can log in, review the invoice, and pay that invoice. I may even use a healthcare example because that's the one that's familiar to me. I know when I use Sutter Healthcare, that's my provider. So if I go in for a physical, in my online account, when I log in, they have a bill for me, my copayment that I need to pay each time I have an appointment, and I go in. And I don't usually pay that in person. I pay that through my account. And because that request came in, that's what we're going to cover off next week. Again, it has to be a simple implementation because we don't have a lot of time during the live stream. I wish that I can show you guys how to build a much more complex application, but again, we're limited in time and there's no way I can do that. So, but thank you guys so much for coming back, David. Good to see you again. Dexter, Luke, thanks for coming back. Hopefully you learned something today. This is as simple of an application as it gets. Okay, just keep that in mind. What we usually focus on in the live stream is functionality over the aesthetics. Can I make this look much, much nicer and sophisticated? Yes, I can. Believe me, yes, I can. Especially if I embed this into a web template, it can look very professional to the point where you have no idea that you're using Caspio behind the scenes. Okay. Again, if you guys have suggestions for what to cover in the live stream, I take on all suggestions and hopefully I can incorporate that into our live stream in the future. But hope you guys have a great Monday. Have a great rest of the week. And I look forward to seeing you guys every Monday where we learn something new on the Caspio platform. Okay. Do you have, hey, look, quick question before you go. Do you have something specific you were hoping to get out of the payment? Just keep in mind our payment integration today is very limited, okay? In terms of, what I mean by that is that you can only make one payment at a time. We don't have the capability for recurring, unfortunately, but I'll do some investigating. I was actually curious about Zapier because I know Zapier has PayPal built in. The connection. So if we did something like from Caspio to PayPal, and if you have a business account with PayPal, I'm wondering if there's a way to, if you submit the form on the Caspio side, I know that we can send the data to PayPal, but I need to see all the possible integrations with PayPal, if they can do recurring on their side and somehow yet be managed on the Caspio side on a table level. Actually really curious to know the answer to that myself, so I may do some poking around and find out, because in Caspio, here under where is it? Payment processors, we can only do Stripe or PayPal today, but unfortunately it's what's built in is just to do one payment at a time. There's no way to do recurring monthly, which I find to be extremely helpful if you're building a SaaS type solution and you want to monetize by having a recurring payment option for your end user, right? That to me it's more valuable to me than just a one-off payment if you're building like an e-commerce solution where you maybe buy a t-shirt and you just submit one payment at a time for that product. Both and recurring. Yeah, the recurring, there's a limitation on recurring today. I will try to investigate and see if we can do something with Zapier to send the information to PayPal. And I know PayPal can handle it. But is there a way to integrate the payment through PayPal via Zapier and somehow communicate that information back to our Caspio table? Because there are a lot of procedures in the back end when it comes to payment. Let's just say, for example, your customer wants to pay, but the credit card is denied. Do we write something back to the Caspio table, right? That the customer has been denied, and we shouldn't give them access to the account yet because they haven't paid yet, right? Credit card was declined. On the other hand, if the payment does go through for the monthly recurring, we need to write something back in the Caspio table, maybe have a checkbox, right? That's flagged to allow that user to log in because the payment went through, right? And if for whatever reason, let's say they cancel their account, again, we need to write some statements back into the Caspio side, and Caspio needs to handle the the login functionality for your customer. Yeah, actually, we talked about that, I think 2 weeks ago or maybe last week. We have it on our idea box. If you guys would like to upvote it, idea box. Okay, so we have 4 votes. If you guys want to come to ideabox.com, thanks, Barrett. So here's the link. Just do yeah. It's actually on my list too. I really want this capability on the platform to do recurring because from a SaaS perspective, it makes a lot of sense, as opposed to one-time payment. So if you can just upvote it, and our development team usually prioritizes on the from the idea box in terms of how they release these features. So the more upvotes we get, more likely to see that capability built in. Makes sense for recurring with users. EFT through the system is best because banks usually accept. Credit card gets declined, no window. Yeah, let me copy that. I'll see what I can do, but I can't make any promises because we cannot do recurring today, which is built in. Usually in my live stream, I try to cover everything that's standard feature in Caspio and not go off doing custom development. So let's just find my notepad little here to log that note. All right. Let me know if you have any more comments, feedback, questions before we go today. Thanks, guys, for coming back to the live stream. I'm happy that you guys are always able to learn something new. So I think that for next week, we're most likely going to use PayPal because PayPal does give me a sandbox account that I can use for testing. So we'll do that. I know it's Stripe. I'm a little bit concerned because you have to provide a lot of sensitive information, your social and all of that, and I don't want that to accidentally get exposed in the live stream. So it's most likely looking like it's going to be a PayPal integration. All right. PayPal it is. I do want to definitely explore the connection between using Zapier between Caspio and PayPal. I think this will be very helpful if there's some way to do recurring. But there's so many procedures in the back end, when it comes to payment. If the payment fails 1 month, you want to disable that account. Or do you leave their account on for a few more days and send them an automatic email? Let them know, hey, your payment failed to go through. You have so many days to provide a different method of payment in order to keep your account active or something like that. So payment can be a little bit tricky. That's why I wish we had that built in for recurring. That it would make it a lot easier. We don't have to worry about any Zapier or anything like that. Because you can still have a PayPal account, right? Since we have PayPal for one-time payment, why not have PayPal for recurring? Because I know PayPal can handle that. If you have a business account, you just link your business account through Caspio and then you just send the payments to your PayPal account. And then from your PayPal account to your bank account and all that good stuff. You just have to, It would be so much easier, but anyway, I digress. Depends, as I just let everyone stay because I'm still marketing to them. They pay, it just takes longer. Yeah. I tried to build something in the past. It was a very crude, very not so user-friendly implementation where they see their account and there's a link inside Caspio that opens up a new tab and goes to PayPal, and then they provide their credit card information, and then I think I had some JavaScript that checks the box on the Caspio side that the payment went through. It wasn't the best user experience, but it functioned. It did the job. All right, guys, I'm not going to keep you any longer. It's been 35 minutes now. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much for coming back, and I hope to see you on Monday. We'll take a look at some payment integration through PayPal. All right, have a good week, and we'll see you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.